So without further ado, I want to introduce our first presenter here today, and his name is Jim Fairweather. So Jim Fairweather is a longtime leader, and he is the head of AI go-to-market at Google. And he's going to join us to show us how we can align our infrastructure strategy with our product strategy to build enterprise-grade agentic solutions. For him, the future of AI isn't just about better prompts, and we're all learning how to write better prompts. It is where and at what scale code runs. So with that, please welcome Jim Fairweather.
Thanks so much, Matt. And I will take over the screen share here. Appreciate that intro. And hello to everybody out there. All right. So if you look at telemetry data of Formula One racing team, you won't find discussions about the color of the paint or the sponsor logo on the driver's suit. You'll find discussions about capacity, downforce coefficients, brake thermal dynamics, and fuel flow rates. In the world of high-performance racing, your output is strictly bound by your underlying capacity. If you have the most beautiful carbon fiber chassis in the world, the most elegant aerodynamic code in your bodywork, but the engine lacks the physical capacity to deliver the raw horsepower, you'll be left sitting useless on the starting grid. And so today, the technology world's facing its own engineering crisis on the starting grid. For the last 18 months, we've had conversations that have been obsessed with code. Which model has the most parameters? Which one has the longest context window? While the code's essential, you can't win a Grand Prix in a minivan. The engine alone does not win the race. The AI model is just a component, is completely blind without context, and completely useless without the physical capacity. So I work with software and technology companies across the country. And one common mistake I see is the one we call a model-only illusion. And we're seeing this commoditization of brilliance. The models are getting smarter, faster, and cheaper every day. But here's the hard truth. Code is a level playing field, not a competitive advantage. If everyone has access to the same high-powered engine, the engine isn't why you win. You win because of how you use it. And frankly, we've seen some misuses of these powerful coding models, and they show up rather clearly on the balance sheet. We must move past this one model to rule them all. The winning strategy for the next decade is a portfolio play. You don't run your hybrid engine at 100% full throttle performance when you're cruising down the pit lane. It's a waste of capacity and fuel. You don't need the most powerful models to summarize emails. In the agentic era, you must route your tasks dynamically. You route your simple, high-speed agentic actions to lightning-fast, ultra-low-cost models like a Flash model. You save your state-of-the-art models like a Pro model for the heavy, multi-step logical reasoning. And you leverage native models like a Gemini Omni when you need seamless blend of text, audio, image, video, and edit the content step-by-step using natural language. And for those highly proprietary sovereign data, you deploy kind of open weight models like a Gemma or others in your virtual private cloud. That's model redundancy. It's about building a modular abstraction layer so that if a model has a bad Friday, your system doesn't even blink. To win the race, the driver needs to have the real-time telemetry. You need context. And part of that context is how ready the organization is to take on AI. Agentic development's evolving at an exponential pace. To avoid scaling more chaos than innovation, there are 3 best practices we've seen clients use to bring rigor to their agentic strategy. The first is prioritize with precision. The most common pitfall I see in the organizations is that they're treating AI as a solution in search of a problem. We want to identify where the most friction exists and where we can make the most impact to a critical business outcome. The next is to build a unified data foundation. AI is only as powerful as the data that feeds it. Data hygiene isn't an IT task. It's a foundational business imperative that's creating a sustainable competitive advantage. And our friends at Domo know a thing or two about this. And lastly, you got to activate the organization. Technology alone does not create value. People do. And it demands a cultural shift in upskilling and leadership. So we must securely ground our models natively into our enterprise data, our databases, our document stores, our real-time searches, because we're transitioning from this instruction-based computing where we click buttons and write lines of code to an intention-based computing where we state a goal and then an agent executes it. And so there's one thing I'd like to call out. Building individual productivity is not the same thing as building institutional value. The tooling and the governance approaches are vastly different. There's a time and a place for each. And in fact, institutional AI should take inspiration from individual AI. However, many organizations are dealing with agent sprawl, where the creativity and chaos of individual AI is bleeding into institutional AI, causing confusion for the users, increasing organizational risk, and is a nightmare to govern. There needs to be a balance of creativity and speed against this coordination and safety. And so it's a challenge many IT teams are facing, and it should sound familiar. There's a demand for more tools than they have capacity to build. There's inconsistent tracking. There's different UIs and styles, which makes it difficult to learn, use, navigate, and there's a ton of duplication. And so we want to think about it slightly differently. Instead of thinking about it as governance for teams or people who want to build and deploy agents, we like to think about it as lighting a path for agent development. And so, of course, building enterprise agents is a lot more complicated than building individual agents. The hardest part about building institutional and enterprise AI is the beginning and the end. If you're going to resource this, you need to focus on defining what you are building, who the user is, what the ideal user experience should look like, and when they would use it. And so now that you've built something, how do you measure the ROI? It's a common question coming up again and again, especially from the board. But this is a framework we go back to again and again with how we answer these questions. But the first is to start with AI utilization, which has become table stakes at this point. This is where most companies measure the adoption, and it's usually from when individuals save time, and it's the individual AI. The second is this step about AI depth. This is measuring how an end-to-end workflow you have could be automated. And when we automate the workflows, we eliminate bottlenecks. And this is where true AI starts to reside and starts to show up within an organization, not just as an individual. And the third step is about AI breadth. And this is where the game changes. This is where you're building autonomous operations. You can build systems that don't just monitor the business, but they act on it. They see, they hear, they resolve issues before they happen, creating self-correcting operation. Most people aren't here yet. But this is also where the physical reality of the universe catches up with us. Running millions of tokens of context and orchestrating thousands of background agents requires an enormous, unyielding amount of physical capacity. AI doesn't live in the cloud. AI lives in silicon. It lives in this liquid-cooled copper pipes, high bandwidth fiber optic lines, massive physical concrete structures humming with electrical currents. Every single token your agent generates has a literal physical cost in watts, amps, and thermal dynamics. If your product strategy doesn't include an explicit and co-designed infrastructure strategy, you're building a beautiful sports car with a garden hose for a fuel line. It will choke. And so how do we bring this together? How do we build internally and externally in this agent era? It requires breaking down the strategic silos in our C-suites. Too often, the product team's busy designing beautiful carbon fiber bodywork. The engineering team is in another room trying to make the engine compile and the finance team is staring at the fuel bill in absolute horror. We must align. The chief product officer, chief technology officer, chief financial officer must sit in the exact same table, sharing a single unifying metric: cost per outcome, not just cost per token. They must design AI products around physical realities of compute capacity, building for model redundancy, securing enterprise grounding as the moat, and treating infrastructure as a first-class citizen of product design. The gold rush era for AI experimentation is winding down, and the era of operational excellence is officially here. The companies that win the next decade won't be the ones that wrote the loudest, most hype-filled press release. They'll be the ones that had the discipline to align their code, their context, and their capacity. They'll be the builders who design resilient, cost-effective, and secure digital assembly lines that solve real human problems. Full speed ahead. Thank you.